Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. I'm going to talk about three things that you need to know if you are a nonprofit founder. And I'm just getting set up on Instagram here. If that's you, if you need encouragement as a nonprofit founder, I'm talking today about what it takes to really be a nonprofit founder in 2024. For some reason, I was about to say 2025, maybe because we're halfway through the year, but that's all right. But I just want to share some information about like what it's like to be a founder and how to prepare yourself for that. And I'm going to give you real information, real advice, because I'm realizing that you may not understand what you're going through, or you may be thinking that you're different, or maybe you're a failure because something's not working or something's going one way. So I just really want to provide some insight on the journey so you can see where you are and to see, make sure you're following the right steps. All right. So if you are a nonprofit founder or you work with a nonprofit, drop your mission, tell us where you're from. There are people who are always in the chat looking to collaborate, so please make sure you share that information today. For those who are just joining me, my name is Tiffany Allen. I started Boss on a Budget because I have been in your shoes trying to figure out what the heck to do, how to get this nonprofit to this point where it could actually be successful. And I learned a lot along the way. So I want to share my lessons from that. So just make sure you share in the chat who you are, where you're from, who you're with, so everybody can know. All right, y'all. And just check in. Can y'all comment and let me know you can hear me okay? I'm in a different space. So it's a different kind of setup. And I just want to make sure y'all can hear me. Y'all can see me. Let me know, y'all. Chat back with me, please. Chat back with me. All right. I know it's so different because I'm usually going back the screen, but to the different screens, but it'll be fine. Hey, Lynn. Okay, just a little bit black. Okay, we good. All right. So I'm going to share three things. I always do my three things where I share information for your organization. Hello to the APP members, Lynn and Jacqueline. I'm going to, and this is inspired by a retreat that I attended this weekend. And the theme of the retreat really was, so we did like a circle process. If you've never experience the circle process, you really should be thinking about this for your meetings because it helps level the playing field. It gives everybody a chance to say something. It's really great for engagement, all this kind of stuff. So there's a circle process where everybody went around the room and shared their experience working with each other. And people were really honest about how they were feeling with the project. They were really, really honest. And the theme that came out of the circle process was, this is a frustrating process. It's been slow. It's been messy. It's been frustrating. There's been tension, all the things, right? And it was so funny because this wasn't related to a nonprofit, but I felt like that's probably how nonprofit founders feel a lot of the time in their journeys, especially with their board, right? You're trying to work with a team of people. They're not moving at the pace you want them to move. You know you're trying to get somewhere, but sometimes the goalpost changes, and sometimes you feel like, okay, this is the end result. We're going to get here, but then something happens, and you got to take 5 steps back, right? And so I was really, really reflecting on that and how I can share, like how I can provide lessons from that experience with that group. And the theme of tonight's live is just to into lean into the messiness. And excuse me, y'all, my nephew's coming through. So excuse me for the background noise. So my theme for this live is to lean into the messiness. Can y'all say that, please? Lean into the messiness. I want you to get used to and get comfortable with the messiness because the messiness provides the most fruitful conversation, the most fruitful engagement, and it's a richer process when you lean into the mess. So I want to give you 3. That's kind of the theme for what I'm talking about today. The door is open, Jeffrey. Sorry, y'all. So can y'all put 3 lessons in the chat? 3 lessons in the chat. This is the first one I want to share. All right. You are supposed to, and I'm talking to you founders, you are supposed to feel like you don't have it all together. You're supposed to feel like that. You're supposed to feel like at times things aren't working. Come on in, it's open. You're supposed to feel like things aren't working right. You're supposed to feel like you're doing all the right things and things mess up. And that's okay. That's the process. That's the journey. Thank you. Love you. Actually, can you put it on the step and just tell her it's down there? Yeah, she's upstairs. Thank you, Jeffrey. All right. Sorry, y'all. So this is what I found, right? So you step into this role as a founder and you want to feel like you got it, right? You want to feel like you have a command of the process. You want to feel like you're doing something, you're moving forward, but it can feel so deflating when things don't work because you feel like it's a reflection of your leadership. You feel like it's a reflection of you as a person, right? When you want your board to do things, you want them to fundraise and they don't engage, they don't do what they're supposed to, a lot of times it feels like you are a failure. Here's the thing. I often tell people, especially when it comes to your board, a lot of times when your board isn't engaging or they aren't doing the things they're supposed to do, a lot of it does start with you because you are the leader. And you do have to examine how you've engaged them. You do have to examine how that process works, but it does not mean you're a failure. Being a leader is messy. Being a leader means you have to do the right thing and be the bigger person when everybody else is being petty. Being the leader means you have to show up and keep doing the work when everybody else fails you, when everybody else says they're going to do some stuff and then they show up to the meeting and they haven't done anything, right? So what I want to encourage you is that like it doesn't feel good because that's how it is. Like if it felt perfect, if it felt right, then to me something ain't right. If it's too good, right? If it's too easy, something ain't right. Right. So I just want to encourage you that if you're feeling out of place, especially if you're a person like me who it's got to be in order. If it's not in order, I don't feel good. I have a lot of anxiety. I feel a lot of pressure. But I'm learning that I have to be able to lean into discomfort. I have to lean into disruption because through disruption, through that process, things happen. Right. And I have to learn to lean into it because if I don't lean into it, I won't see what happens on the other side. So that's the first thing I just want y'all to get. Thank you guys for listening and for keeping engaged. Because sorry, I had to get something done, get something taken care of, and it was right in the middle of the live. Yeah. So and for the person asking to request my video on Instagram, please don't do that because I don't know how to do that. So I always say that I don't know how to do that. Hey Tiffany, hey Cheryl for showing up. Hey Kamika. Hey Miss Fit and Fab, Miss Jamila from Pennsylvania. You might have a neighbor there, Cheryl. That might be a connection for you. All right. Hey Jessica. So let's do number 2. All right. Drop number 2 in the chat to let me know that you are here. This is the one. This is the one that's going to get y'all. All right. Number 2 is the process is slow and it's slow for a reason. This is the biggest thing I need you to understand. The process is slow and it almost has to be. It's slow for a reason. And it's so easy to get caught up in the stories, especially when it comes to fundraising, when people are like, I raised this much money this quickly, right? Or I have a podcast episode coming out next week. Y'all be on the lookout. And she raised millions of dollars in 6 months. Well, there's a reason for that though, right? There's a reason why she was able to do that because of her connections, because of her history. But sometimes we feel like things moving slow is an indicator that this isn't for us, right? But especially when it comes to fundraising, it just takes time, right? If you listen to any kind of marketing advice, and this is just in sales, it takes sometimes on average 7 touch points for somebody to be convinced to get to buy your product. And it's very similar on the fundraising side. It takes multiple touch points in order for somebody to give to you. But you can hear me say that because I've said that a bit. I've said build a relationship first, right? Engage people first, inform them about your work, educate people about the things you do first, then you ask. You can hear me say that, but when you ask somebody who you feel like should already know what you do, and then when you ask them to give and they say no, everything's out the window, ain't it? Ain't it? Everything's out the window because you say, well, you should know that I need this money. And as a donor, why wouldn't you give to me? But that's because we often center ourselves in the process. You put yourself there. So you say, well, if it was me, I would give, but you have no idea what this person has experienced, what's on their mind, what they've given to before, what they may be willing to do later. You have no idea where they are. And when you put your timeline on somebody else, you are thinking for other people and you're making judgments for other people. And that's not how you want to do this. And you're setting yourself up for failure because then you realize or you think, well, the person's saying no to me because they don't like me or they hating on me, or the person's saying no because they don't believe in what I'm doing. Should I be doing this? Oh my goodness. Is something wrong? Right. And that's not necessarily the case. That's not necessarily the case. Just because someone says no doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing this. Now, here's a caveat though. Hey, Shauna, I really do want to give a caveat. Don't start a nonprofit because you want to do it. And that's the only reason. You should be starting a nonprofit because you have evidence of a demonstrated need. You have seen, you have studied, you have researched that there's something that's not being done. There's something missing and there's a need to be filled, right? Don't just make assumptions about what people need or what people should give without engaging those people, without talking to them, without asking them. So when I talk about like you staying in this and you going for the long run, the assumption is that you've done the work, you've talked to the people, you understand the people that you're serving, and you're serving those needs that exist. All right. So that I just wanted to throw that caveat out there because some people, I'll just leave it there. Right. So can be slow, but it's slow for a reason. And this is the thing that I've learned. There have been many times that people have approached me and said, oh, I like what you do. Let's do this partnership. Or I like what you do. I have this idea. And do you know how many times things have fizzled out? And I have learned that there's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. And I'm not going to rush what's for me, right? I'm not going to rush what is for me. So that means you got to take care of yourself in the meantime. That means in the meantime, it's going to get discouraging. It's going to feel rough when things aren't popping off like you feel they should. But you investing in that in the meantime will help you reap eventually. So think about how you're going to pour into yourself, how you're going to pour into your mission, how you're going to pour into your organization. Because there will be times where you're going to have to take a break, you're going to have to sit down. There are going to be times where it's going to be, you're about to burn out and you really have to reassess. There are going to be times when you're not making good decisions, right, about your organization, and you're really going to have to evaluate where you are and what's best. And all of that is part of the journey. All of that is what makes it slow. All of that is what makes it great. In you going slow, you're able to listen. You're able to reflect. You're able to look around, right? Because most of you are starting your nonprofit. And when I say slow, it could be slow for you to get your programs going, or slow to raise the money you want to raise, or slow to get to the level you want to get to, whatever that is. Sometimes the process needs to take time. But for this example, I'm talking about just with raising money. Unless you are very well connected, it takes time to build those relationships for people to give to you. and it could feel so insulting, but I want you to know that it's not about you. It's not about you, whether this person says yes or no. Because they may be enthralled by you, they may be inspired by you, but in the end, their giving is to satisfy themselves, but also to help somebody else, right? So don't center yourself in the process. Just enjoy the journey. Okay. That's number 2. All right. Number 3. Somebody put 3 in the chat. Cheryl said, it's hard for me when I'm also working 2 jobs. Thank you for pointing that out, Cheryl, because that's real. And that's the other reason why it goes slow. Like if you had the time to work on this full time, you would, right? And you would go quicker. Things would get done. That's why you can't beat yourself up, because the expectation that you starting a new organization and you doing everything, because as the founder, you probably are doing everything. The expectation that things should just pop off tomorrow is unrealistic, and you're being hard on yourself. It's unrealistic. And I tell funders this all the time. For you to expect, sorry, I went on a tangent because I just have to say this. For you to expect somebody to learn fundraising, build partnerships, manage their board, learn the grant writing process, learn how to message and communicate, learn the technology so you're doing the right things and staying on top of everything. I just named like 6 different jobs and you're doing all of it. So again, give yourself grace. And this process is going to go slow, and it's slow for a reason. All right. Number 3, I want you to focus on how you leave people. So I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I'm going to be honest. I've been doing this for a long time. Let me just say this. It seems like I maybe just came out of nowhere because some of y'all have just found me. But I have actually been doing Boss in a Budget since 2016, and I've been going live in some form since 2018. And there have been times where I've been saying the same thing for forever. I'm the champion for new nonprofits. I'm the champion for small nonprofits. I've been doing this forever. And sometimes I feel like, well, they didn't acknowledge me, right? Or there was a conference somewhere, I didn't get invited to speak, or, there are all these people getting all this shine on certain networks, and these people don't even know my name. And I'm like, how could they not know my name? I've been out here roughing it. I literally started on my iPhone, right? And sometimes I get in my head and I'm like, right? So that frustration when you feel like people should treat you better or people should acknowledge you can really impact how you treat people. And it shows up like this. You have an interaction with somebody and it's not what you expected. They're not giving you what you want right away. So you don't follow up with that person or you don't say thank you to that person. You just let it go to the wayside, right? And I have been guilty of doing this, right? But I want you to think about how you leave people, no matter what they do for you or what they don't do for you. Are you approaching everything with the spirit of thankfulness? Thankfulness for the conversation. It doesn't matter if you never speak to that person again. Are you focusing on the type of interactions you're having and how you leave people? Are you leave people feeling seen? Are you leaving people feeling heard? Are you leaving people with them understanding why you exist and what your mission is, right? Are you approaching every interaction with a spirit of gratefulness? Because in the grind, especially with fundraising, in the grind of going for it, when you don't get what you want, like when somebody doesn't get you, like, all right, I gotta go on to the next. All right, whatever. You know what I mean? And some of those no's we take personally, and the things that we take personally make us hard and cold to some people. Can I be real? Because anybody relate? So you just don't know, like I said, and you can't make any assumption about where a person is. Because that no may be coming from a place you have no clue about. And it could be years later that somebody remembers you, that somebody puts you on, that somebody recommends you to somebody. And if you were more thoughtful with your interactions and how you left people, you may have those, you may, create those connections or have those opportunities because of how you left those interactions. So, how are you leaving people? What's the impression that you're leaving? What's the spirit that you're coming to a room or coming to a meeting? Because let me just say, it's heavy on my heart. Like, having a nonprofit is heavy. It's heavy because you're often serving some of the most vulnerable people, or you're addressing an issue that people either don't act like they don't care about or they're clueless about. So you are like relentless about, sharing your information with people. And it's draining and it's frustrating. And it's draining to do the work because people always need you and you're the helper. But it's also draining when you are so passionate and people don't see it. People don't understand it. And it's frustrating. It's also frustrating when people take advantage of you. That's what people tend to do with founders. You don't know how many times I've heard a founder say, I was scammed, or I was, somebody took advantage of me, or somebody charged me all this money. And it didn't need to be all of that. So, then you got your family stuff. Then you're frustrated with your board. Then you got work. It's so much. So you can come to the work sometimes discouraged, and that can show up in your interactions. So I just need you to remember that every person you encounter, approach it with a spirit of thankfulness, approach it with gratefulness, and think about how you can build a connection with that person, how you can make them feel once you leave them. Here's some things that I do. Like, sometimes I check on people, right? So when people download my checklist, I check on them. I automatically check on people at a certain amount of time, right? Or when I have certain interactions with people, I send them cards, right? Or I just will drop a note and say, hey, was just thinking about you. I hope you're okay. Those are the things that people remember, and you just really have no idea the people who are in rooms that are speaking up for you. Somebody told me yesterday, who I didn't even realize was paying attention to things I said. I said something to her one day, and she came back to me and was like, what you said to me encouraged me and helped me to go forward with the thing that I was thinking about. And if you don't realize it, you are helping somebody. Please don't stop. And I randomly said it. I don't even remember what I said, but I do know that when I speak to people, I try to be intentional. Even if they're not giving me any money, or even if they're not doing anything for me, I try to be intentional and leave something with them. And I want you to do that too. Because we just need a different crop of people. We need people who are not just about getting money. We need people who are not just about, advancing their goals, but also they are intentional about being kind to people. They're intentional about being real, being good. Because I feel like we've lost that in our society. We have really, really lost that. And no matter what you get out of the conversation and interaction, leave people good. Okay? So I'm just going to recap real quick. Thank y'all for watching tonight. I'm going to share just some quick tips. Number one, these are just things that I was just reflecting on for nonprofit founders because of an experience I had this weekend, and just acknowledging that life is messy and you got to lean into the messiness. It just is what it is. So number one, hey, Nikki. Number one, you are supposed to feel like you don't have it all together. So give yourself grace. You're never going to get it 100% right. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Number two, the process is slow for a reason. Resist the stuff, that makes you want to rush. And some things, you got to slow it down. And that doesn't mean you're a failure if you do that. And number three, focus on how you leave people. Focus on how you make people feel. Focus on your interactions. Think about the intention you bring to your meetings and your intentions you bring to those interactions with folks, because that kind of stuff matters. And though that's not the goal, it really does pay off. And people remember. Didn't Maya Angelou say that? People remember how you feel. I was going to try to attempt to talk like her, but I couldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. My Maya Angelou impression. People will remember. Let me shut up before I get myself in trouble. All right, before I drop off, any questions? Let me go through because I can't see. And I'm in a different place, so I definitely can't see. All right, see people saying hello. All right. Excuse me. I don't see any questions. Questions. All right. Okay, I see somebody saying they're taking breaks. They're doing all those things. Teresa said she's excited about purchasing my peer-to-peer guide. Yes. Tell me how it goes, because one person used it, raised $120,000. Well, use the process, raised $120,000. Okay, I see one question from Ron Brown. This is a good question because it's a complicated question, and then I'll drop off. Can your nonprofit name have LLC at the end? So here's the thing. If you have LLC at the end, then that means you are an LLC, because I don't know why else you would have it if you're not an LLC. And in most circumstances, LLCs cannot become nonprofits. In certain circumstances, they can, but I'm almost 99% sure that what you're trying to do is not those circumstances. So an LLC doesn't become a nonprofit. It's not a nonprofit. Okay. So also, the thing I want to say about naming conventions is every state is different. So some states, if you're a corporation, which most nonprofits are, will require you to have Inc. at the end, or corporation, or something like that, right? Some states do not require that. So that's why you really have to study your state law, study the rules of the Secretary of State's office, or wherever you're incorporating your nonprofit, and just know for sure what the naming conventions are. Because if you don't get it right, they're going to kick it back, right? Delaware, I'm just thinking I got kicked back one time because it didn't have Inc., right? So, a couple more questions. I lied. I'll answer some since it's still early. How do you find a mentor? That's a good question too, and that relates to question 2. The point 2 that I made. It takes time. You got to build relationships with people, because people aren't not going to just give their time to you if they don't feel led to, or they don't feel connected to your mission. So that's one thing that I would just keep in mind. Like, if you want a mentor, you got to build those relationships, go to your chamber, go to different groups, go to associations, and get to know people. And then you want to fill that person out too, because you don't know if they're a good mix and match for you, or you want to see what they've done and if their experience can help you. So my advice is just build relationships with people and go from there. Can I have a consultation with you? Yes, you may. Let me drop it in the chat for you. I do consultations all the time. And I felt like I saw, thank you for having this platform. I have learned so much. Thank you for watching me. I appreciate all of y'all. All right. So thank you, guys. I'm going to drop this last link in the chat, and then I'm going to jump off. I hope you guys have an awesome week. I'm going to share something real quick, some news. So I'm getting back into the swing of things with my podcast. So I am dropping an episode on Wednesday. It's a really good episode. The episode was so good, I had to go live in the APP Facebook group. Didn't I, y'all? I was so excited. I was breathing hard, walking outside, because I didn't lose the weight, but because it was just that good. It was a woman who had started her foundation, and she was dropping so many nuggets, and I was so happy. And guess what? She's coming on the YouTube channel in June. So she's going to share her experience, because she's worked for a foundation before, and before she started her own foundation. And she's such a wealth of knowledge and so helpful. So y'all, like, please stay tuned because I'm gonna be bringing people to the stage so y'all can learn from just not me, because I know you're tired of hearing me just talk all day. I'm gonna have some of my APP folks up here. I'm gonna be knocking on y'all doors because I want to create a platform where people can learn from each other, not just from me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next. I won't see you next week because it's a holiday. So I'll see you the next time I see you. I'll have Miss Carmen James Randolph as my guest. Get ready. Bye, y'all.